Here we are. We're down at Eisenhower Park, Tarfa Title King of Kings Foundation. We are here with the Police Commissioner Thomas Sapp Foundation, and this is a day that we have set aside to open up the eyes to everyone that can see clear on what's going on in our neighborhoods, not hood. We never use the word hood anymore because that's a form of covering things up. In our neighborhoods and how we're losing our children and adults to the foolishness that the streets have to offer. We have with us today a young lady. She goes by no organization. She comes from a caring heart that's reaching out to the community to open up their eye to the awareness of guns, gangs, and gang violence and how it's just destroying our children. I'm gonna allow her to share with you the things that she's doing and how she's making an impact in the community out here in the county of Nassau.
Okay, I've been working with young people with an agency called Family and Children's for approximately 25 years. I left there 2 years ago, but during my time I found that we were losing a lot of young people that I knew. I grew up on Long Island in Hempstead, worked in the area, now working in Uniondale, and many of the young people I started in 2000 of keeping obituaries and newspaper articles to follow what was happening on Long Island, because oftentimes Long Island, Nassau County, is reported as being one of the richest counties and one of the safest counties to live in, because we choose to dismiss that we have so many killings. So I started keeping a record of how many articles and a memorial book to show how Long Island is progressing in the loss of life of young people and these crimes being committed by young people, against young people. So as people begin to look at this, when I put this display out, it shows them a little bit more about Long Island that people don't choose to show because, of course, people worry about it bringing down the tax property and all those kinds of things. But there's nowhere in this country where the taxes have gone down because of murder. It has increased because as long as we have murders, as long as we have crime, then we have to build our prison systems. We have to hire more police. So we have to keep this going. But we need to get our young people to understand and our families to understand that each time you have a death, you can't mourn for a short period of time and go back, because then you're going to be back at the same time, same place. And a lot of times people say, well, those people were at the wrong place at the wrong time. No, the person who committed the crime was doing the wrong thing at the wrong time with an item they shouldn't have had in the first place.
Exactly. So, could you explain to us about the display that you just made mention of? Because I see that the ages vary from low to high, and it's sad, but could you collaborate on it just a little more, please?
Okay, first I started out with a memorial book, and that's this item here. And it started to match the articles with the names. So what I did was took the names out of the articles as they were deceased and put them in a book and started to show it to young people so they could see what was happening, who was committing the crime. So you can match this book with the article and see where the case went for a period of time. Then so that people can really visualize it and see it and won't miss the point, I developed the boards this year so that all the names will be displayed, the hearts, to let people know that if everybody else wants to forget about the loss of life on Long Island, I'm not going to. Whenever I can present this, I'm going to let people see what we're living with, because I could be the next victim. My son, my daughter, my husband, the child next door. We could be just walking down the street and someone's shooting a gun. They may not be shooting it at me, but I can catch that bullet. And this really started with this young man here, who, when I first started my career working with young people for Family and Children, I worked with this family, Jonathan Harris, and he was shot by a group of Hispanic men who thought he was a representative of the Bloods. And this happened on the coronation for Roosevelt's homecoming, which is an event that young people go to see the crowning of the king and the queens. Right. And I met Kevon Abrams, who became a legislator, and we were in the streets, and I started to really look at the articles I already had in my bag, just keeping them, and said, let me display it so that young people can look at what they're doing to young people. Because if you look at this, the shooters, many of the shooters are young people, and many of the victims are young people. Many of the adults on here were killed by young people. Some of these murders are still unsolved. Right. Some of these murders, as my husband is experiencing right now, we had a situation where a young man was accused of shooting what was his stepson at one time, last August, and the young man happened to come. My daughter had a barbecue this year. The young man, the charges was dropped. The young man came to my home because he's friends with my daughter, but it was hard for my husband. So that put me in a place of, how do I help everybody through this process? The young man, the charges have been dropped. No doubt he was there. No doubt he had something to do with it. But then I'm caught. So I always seem to know, either connected to someone or know someone who's lost their life. My son just experienced losing on the 14th a friend that grew up with him. And it's just always that connection. So you always end up knowing someone. So I want everyone to know that I'm one that's never going to forget, and I never get paid for this kind of thing. All of this is something I do so that people will not forget that these young people, these people are losing their lives, and it's going to keep happening until we stand up and say we're not going to have it. Until mothers say, I'm not going to let my son keep a gun in the house. I'm not going to let the gangs get him. I look at the flags that I collected from young people, from different groups and posses that eventually rolled over to becoming gang members and are incarcerated or are no longer with us.
Okay, well listen.
The bandanas were actually a lot of young people that I met that were gang involved. Because I have a good rapport with young people, they gave me those flags so that I can use them in my display, because they really don't want to be what they are, but many circumstances, such as the board there, explains some of the social development issues that have affected our young people becoming involved. And it's not just the young people doing it. The government is involved, households are involved, the school system are involved as to why young people are losing their lives, feeling hopeless, feeling that killing is the right way to go. So I try to encompass everything so that no one entity is left to stand alone, is taking blame for this. We got to look at every part of it, the family, the community, home, school, the government. Everybody plays a role in why this crisis, why this disease has grown to be what it is.
Okay, well, let the audience know that the voice they're hearing is the name of who?
Valerie McFadden.
Valerie McFadden. And what we're going to do today, we're going to challenge everyone within the sound of our voice that has an ear to hear to pay attention to what you just seen and take it not lightly. Truly understand that it really does take a village to raise a child, even look out for a child. So we're challenging everyone to, when you see that child on the street corner doing something you know they shouldn't be doing, pull their coat, holler at them, bend their ear, say something positive to them that they may change their thought. Because if we don't change the way that the younger generation is thinking today, we're going to be like the dinosaurs. We're going to be like the cavemen. We're going to be extinct. They're going to be talking about the black man 50 years from now on how we destroyed ourselves. And the Ku Klux Klan sent a message to the black man. They said, thank you for doing their job, because we do a better job. Black on black crime, we kind of sort of put the Ku Klux Klan not out of business, but they riding low now because we're our worst enemy.
And they're not riding low. They're not riding low. Those are your correction officers. Those are your police officers. Those are your people that are in that modern day slave environment that we have going on, that prison system that's now privately owned. It's an industry. It's an industry that says, well, if they're doing it, then we got to do something about it. We got to capitalize on it. The funeral homes, the courts, everything involved in a killing involves money. If someone isn't killed, the police get paid to stand out there and investigate. And when you look at a murder scene, oftentimes you'll see 30 to 40 police, and you'll see 5 actually doing something regarding the scene, but the rest are standing around having a conversation. So that's money.
So actually what we did was, as a people, we lowered the standards of the ones that used to wear the white sheet, and we raised the standards of another, because I guess it's to say that if we can continue to destroy ourselves, then why wouldn't no one else? We make it too easy. It's time for us to get a grip on with this thing we call life and live it to the fullest, because we only here one time.